So I saw Alien Romulus, and this movie seems to be getting some mixed reviews from audiences. There were people who were telling me it's great and I'm gonna love it, and then there were others saying that it was bad and I shouldn't bother. So, what did I think of the film? Well, right off the bat, I was very impressed with the look of the movie. The tone and atmosphere throughout this film was absolutely brilliant. It mimics the tone of the original Alien movies whilst also being able to stand on its own. This also carries through to the effects. The movie uses a lot of practical effects, both with the sets, the ships, the sequences in space, and also with the aliens. They've gone back to using animatronics and guys in costumes, and I thought it was all handled extremely well. Now, there were CGI aliens and CG effects as well, but a lot of it was practical, which was really cool to see. And they were utilized in some really creative set pieces. There was one with zero gravity which was so creative and had acid blood as obstacles. The facehuggers had much more screen time as well, and I would say the biggest contribution this movie made to the Alien franchise was how they leveled up the facehuggers. We have never seen this many before, and for the first time, we actually get chase sequences with them, which were really intense. Usually whenever there would be a ton of facehuggers, they would get killed off instantly. This happened both in Aliens and Alien vs Predator. But to see so many of them here, and for them to pose a constant problem, that was refreshing. And the characters even find creative ways to walk past and disable the facehuggers as well. So I thought that was all really well done and added a new element to the action and the lore. And the best way I would describe the action in this movie is that it was less action and more tension. I mean, they have guns, but they're told that they're not allowed to shoot them or else. So clearly the movie was trying to go for a more alien style of action rather than aliens. But aside from the zero gravity and the facehuggers, the rest of the action was stuff that we had mostly seen before from this franchise. In terms of the story, I actually got into it at the beginning, and then I just lost interest for like the first third of the film. It felt like this was the filler part of the movie until we got to the cool alien stuff, and the characters really couldn't hold my attention. My eyelids were getting really heavy. And I think it's about time we get into the problems with this film. First of all, the characters. They weren't the worst I've seen, but they felt like teenage characters that you would get in a generic slasher film. One character sounded like a British punk who was always aggressive in the way he spoke. The main character was okay, but the best character was Andy, especially when you start to doubt his loyalties. But everyone else, I really couldn't care less if they made it out alive or not. I kid you not, at one point, I only kinda sorta cared for a character to survive because I thought she was the attractive one. That tells you how light this movie is on characterization. And I just don't find myself rooting for these characters. With the first two Alien movies, you cared about all of them, and you were really rooting for them to survive, especially in the second film. But here, you knew who the main character was supposed to be, and you knew the rest were all expendable. That was not the case with the first Alien movie, where we didn't even know that Ripley was the main character until all her friends died. They all seemed like main characters, and Ripley seemed like the side character. That's how great the misdirect was in that film. But here, you almost immediately can guess who is going to survive and who's going to die, and I just didn't really care less for any of them. So that was a big point against this film, and sadly, the problems don't stop there. I was surprisingly disappointed by the deaths in this movie. Most of them I can't even remember, and they weren't all that bloody either. In fact, I would actually go as far as to say that this is the least bloody Alien movie ever made. Was that a Disney thing? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. There was one death scene that I liked involving acid, but it concluded in a way that I couldn't tell what happened. The chestburster scene that was teased in the trailer was so underwhelming, and the alien only uses his second mouth to kill someone once, and it was done so quickly and in pretty dark lighting that you couldn't even see it properly. And that leads to another problem with this movie. Now, I don't know if it was my theater, but I thought the lighting in the movie was way too dark at times. At one point, they have a shot where the characters were looking at something in shock, and the cinematography was so dark that when they showed us what it was, I couldn't make out what I was looking at. They also did a lot of stuff that Aliens did, which is we have close-up shots of the characters shooting, and then they cut to the effects shot of the alien reacting or dying. And I think they did it a bit too much in Alien Romulus. Aliens did this, but it also made sure to mix it up and put the aliens in the same shot as the actors, but Romulus didn't do that. And I would have liked to see the aliens in the same shot as the actors more often to sell you on the illusion that this is all happening in the same location. But I could kind of see through the editing in Alien Romulus, and I could tell they weren't. But yeah, the death scenes were not memorable, and they were very disappointing. Also, the movie kind of turns into a fan service film. There was a line that they took from Aliens, and it was one of the top 2 most quoted lines of the film. And there's one rather big part of fan service that I actually don't mind. To be honest, I actually liked it. The movie also makes the odd reference to Prometheus, which I didn't like that movie, so I could have done without it, and there were even bigger references to Alien 4. Not so much with the story, but more so with the creative choices they made. We'll get to that in a minute. But I wish they would have stayed away from the obvious fan service because it felt cheap. Now, there are certain reviewers out there saying that fans just won't accept anything new if they complain about the film's ending, and I really don't know what they're talking about, because the climax of this movie is just a rip-off of the climax in Alien 4. They changed a couple of details, but the so-called new thing that they're on about is not new at all. We have seen it all before, and if you hated it before, I don't know how you can like it now. Honestly, Alien Romulus showed promise several times throughout the movie, but the more it went on, the more it felt like, well, I guess Hollywood made another one of these. There was absolutely no reason for this movie to exist. It gets the Alien style down, but without characters you care about, it all felt like style over substance. This movie was originally intended to be on Hulu, and that's where it should have stayed. It didn't feel like it was a true cinema-worthy Aliens movie. It was entertaining whilst I was watching it, but when it was over, I was ready to leave, and never wanted to see the movie again, really. So Alien Romulus gets a low 5 out of 10. This was an average at best film that had some good tension and action sequences, but it was mostly filled with stuff that we have seen before and characters that you really couldn't care less about. I honestly found the characters to be the most forgettable in this movie than they have ever been in any of the previous Alien sequels. And for this movie to have as many aliens as it did, the stakes didn't feel as high as Alien 1 or 3 where we had just one alien. So I think they made pretty poor use of their alien numbers. So, take that for what it's worth. Comment below with your thoughts on Alien Romulus and let me know what you thought about it. Be sure to subscribe and follow me on Patreon for extra content and for your name to be in the credits of videos, and I will catch all of you next time. Take care. You still here? Good, because you are all going to be treated with a brief spoiler talk of this movie. Now, when I was talking about the fan service in this review, the popular catchphrase I was referring to was the
"Get away from her, you bitch!"
catchphrase. It was a fantastic line in Aliens, but it was a needless nostalgia play in Alien Romulus. We didn't need it, and the synthetic who said it didn't make sense when he said it. And the way they presented it was as if this was a comedy, which it isn't. It's supposed to be an intense horror movie, and to put that catchphrase in here the way they did, it was so out of place with the tone of this movie. The second throwback they did is when they bring in the synthetic from the first movie that was played by Ian Holm, and this is the one that I actually liked. Now, the CG for him was good at times, but the rest of the time it looked like an uncanny valley CGI effect. But I really liked his inclusion. That is until I finished editing this review. Right as I finished editing this video, I started to have second thoughts. And ultimately, I think it would have been better if the movie did not put him in, and put in a no-name robot instead. If it was a different robot, we wouldn't know if we could trust it or not. But seeing as it's the robot model from the first movie, we knew we just couldn't trust him. And second reason they should have included him is because they could have taken the effects budget they used for him and spend it on the rest of the alien sequences, which, like I said in the review, they hardly put the actors in the same shot as the aliens. So maybe if they had the extra money that they put into that uncanny valley CGI effect, they could have used it to make those alien sequences look better instead. And then we have the final thing that I alluded to in the review. It's one thing for this movie to reference and bring things over from the good Alien movies, but what possessed them to bring things over from the bad Alien movies? This baby alien hybrid thing from Alien Resurrection was actually brought into this movie, and it is the exact same climax that we got in the fourth film, only the thing is full-on evil and kills its mother this time round, rather than whatever this was in Alien 4. Now, in Alien Romulus, they call this hybrid abomination the Offspring, and it looked like the engineer from Prometheus, and although the design was better than what we got in the fourth movie, it was still completely pointless. And it felt like another throwback to Prometheus, and the movie had just ended. It had wrapped itself up, and then they forced this extra ending on us. Now, some of the previous Alien movies have given us another ending, but for two of them, it felt earned. With Alien 4 and Romulus, it felt tacked on. And again, this climax scene with the Offspring alien, it was so dark at times I couldn't properly tell what was going on. So those are the spoilers I was referencing in this review, things that I hinted at but couldn't talk about in detail. Sound off in the comments below with your thoughts on my review and spoiler talk, and I'll catch all of you very soon. Take care.